Hi everybody, Leslie here. I'm back in my craft lab today and I've got a bit of a different video. I've talked about batch making quite a few times and I've been making tags today. Now I know not everybody needs this many tags, but this is how many tags I've made today by setting myself up so I could batch make them. And I've done some with stamping and some with die cutting. And I thought it might be quite interesting to see how many I can make in a day, and it's this many. It's quite a lot. These aren't all for me. These are going to Christmas fair at the weekend, and I've got quite a lot of tips and tricks. So I'm not going to subject you to me sitting there stamping for ages. When I've got a tip or something, I'll tell you what it is. So my office is outside and it gets pretty cold. So in winter, I'm in the back half of my garage. I can't stay out here too long. So do things that I can do quickly, and then I set myself up a little tray, and I thought I'd show you what I do to take things so I can sit inside, not in my craft room. So I could do this sitting in front of the TV. So one of the things I do is I've got a little baby die cut machine. So this is the Spellbinder's Sapphire. I don't think they make this one anymore, but there's loads of other little dinky die cut machines. So I have that, and I have my plate, and I have a little tray so I can keep everything contained, sitting, middle of the sofa, arm of the chair, wherever it is. So I have this little tray, and I always keep this little container. It's a porter, and then this usually sits empty, and then when I want to take things inside, I decide what it is I'm going to do, and I fill it with all the things that I would need to do. I have another one of these. They came as a pair that sits on my desk that has the kind of tools that I reach for all the time. So some of the things in here would normally live in the one on my desk. So I keep an empty one just for this purpose. So this afternoon I took my crocodile in because some of my tags I'd punched didn't have holes in, so I needed to put holes in. I took some twine in because I had to string them, obviously. A lot of them were pre-strung, so I only did that to a few. My mini die cut machine, the one die that I was cutting everything out of, so that was this one. My glue, a pair of reverse tweezers because, makes holding those die cuts while you glue them easier and sticking them down. Scissors in case I need them. My big scissors that I was cutting the twine with. I didn't end up using this in the end. And a couple of pokey tools, really just for getting the gems off and for poking out the little pieces out of the die as well. So I'll show you some of the tags, but this is how I set myself up so that I can go and craft in front of the TV, chatting with my family. And I thought it might be useful for someone to see that. I thought I'd show you all the tags I made today. So let's start at the end, which these were actually the last ones I did. I'll pull all the big ones out, and then I've caught some of the little ones. So I die cut all these deer and stuck them on and popped the little red noses on. Really simple tag. I think it's quite elegant, but with just the right amount of whimsy, I think, with the little red nose on. So I put these in packs of 5, so I think I've got 6 lots of 5. So I've done about 30 of those. And I did all those chatting to my 18-year-old daughter after I picked her up from school because she's excited because she's got a university offer of a place at university for next year. And then these ones I did stamp in, so you'll see these with some tips and tricks in the video. These ones are all stamped and embossed. I'll tell you what stamps they are as we're going along. I think I've got 5 lots of those all. There's 2 different trees, but they're all trees. 5 different sets of those. I've got 5 sets of my favourite snowflake, this is one of my all-time favourite large stamps. It's a large river stamp. I've had this for years and years, and I have made tons and tons and tons of this particular Christmas tag, and I have used as well as sold many of them. So I just get the big rolls of craft paper from Costco usually, but you can get it in other places. You can get it in Hobbycraft in the UK, but the great big rolls of brown paper, And sometimes I stamp on it, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I stamp on it, I leave it plain and put like some, ribbon string around it so it looks like a parcel. Add one of these and it can look really classy. So that's what I tend to do with those. And then what else have we got? And then I did a load more stamped ones and a few die cut ones. So these little tiny ones, these little tiny tags came like this, strung from the works. And I've just stamped 25th of December. And so that I don't get bored when I'm making things in batches, I pick out different colours. So I've got 5 sets of those, and I've mixed them up. I've got 5 sets of those. I've got a silver, which I did have to come back and heat emboss. I've got 5 silver, 5 black, 5 green, 5 red. Oh, and a second 5 in black. So there's 2 lots of black sets, silver, a red and a green. So 5 lots of those. So that's 25 tags. That's 5 packets. And I did the same with this design that says do not open until 25th of December. So I've got the same thing. I've got red, I've got green, black, and I think I've got 2 red sets in this particular one because it looked nice in the red. And again, I did it in a silver pigment, which I did have to come back and heat emboss over the top of. So that's another 5 packets, 25 tags. And these ones, this particular die, again, I'll talk about it later on. I had all these die cut already in my bits box. Then these ones, again, did the same thing. These ones I only had 20 of these particular tags. These were some ready-made ones that had come in a mixed bag of things, I think, once. So these ones, I did 10 gold embossed, 5 gold embossed, 5 green, 5 red, 5 black. Bit of something for everyone. I've got a few tips about stamping on circular things as well later on in the video. And the last set was similar to this. Again, it was in my bits box. I already had, I think I had 6 of these cut out, and I've obviously only used 5. All that lot, loads and loads of tags. They're now all ready for me just to bag them up. Hopefully some of the tips, even if you don't need to make quite this quantity, some of the tips along the way might be useful for you. So I'll get on with it and show you some more with the stamping. What I would do to start with is I've taken my glass mat off my board, because sometimes when you're using stamp presses and you're using them a lot, if you're trying to do it on a glass board which has got little feet on the bottom, it flexes. So the glass itself can flex a little bit. Now, my work surface in my craft room is a very big leftover piece of kitchen work surface, and it's about 1.5 inches thick. So my desk is really solid. The actual surface doesn't flex. My camera shook then, but that's because it's on like a slightly springy arm, which is ultimately attached to the table. So it's actually springing with the give that I've got in my floor rather than my work surface. So you want a really good flat solid surface if you're going to do lots of repeat stamping in your press, and you don't want to keep having to restamp and restamp. So that's really important, that you've got a nice flat surface. And I know some people who don't have a really nice flat table use like a thick chopping board, something like that underneath. Something that's, like this sort of thing, that's a nice thick chopping board, that's like 1/2 inch thick. Something like that underneath. This one's not probably big enough for my stamp presses, but you know what I mean. Something like that doesn't have the flex that maybe a glass mat does, if that's what you're used to working on. So that's important when you're setting yourself up. And then what I would tend to do is pull out one of all the sizes of tags that I'm going to do. So then I went through my stamps, pulled out, I must admit, some of my old favourites. So I've got this one, which I've used dozens of times on stamps, on tags, and I love it. And this one as well. I've actually got some of these ones stamped. So these are both indigo blue stamps. And this one I've used year after year. It's not great for embossing, but it's good for versifying. It works really nicely. So that's one of the tags that I've used, the stamps I've used loads of times. And I think they still have them. That one's called Stag Cliffhanger. So although they're in the same pouch, they are actually 2 different sets. So this is Stag Cliffhanger from Indigo Blue. And the other one is called, I have to recall it, it's written on the back, Large Snowflake A6 is this one. So I'm going to use that one definitely. I might do some more of those. And I've also got some of the indigo blue dinkies that I've used. So we'll see, but you'll see I'll set up, and I pulled out a few others. I think these are all Do Crafts ones. I'm not sure about this December 25th. I can't remember. No, I think that is. So as you can see, this is how I store a lot of my stamps. That little one is a really old Dovecraft Studio G one. So this little one in the corner. So I often keep the original packaging in the back so that I know what the names were. But it's a lot easier to see, and you can store lots in one pocket this way. So yeah, these ones are both Do Crafts ones from a few years ago. So I'm going to set up my stamping jigs. So this is why I've got all my stamp platforms out. And for this one doesn't have the magnets, so I'm going to use this with my circle ones, because I can just push them right into this bottom corner and it should hopefully be okay. And I'm thinking the Season's Greetings is really nice on there. So in my Misty, put that away, I need to take my mouse mat out, which my daughter heat set on and melted. I wasn't best pleased. So in this one, I know this fits in here, but I can't put it in a corner. Obviously the stamp has to overhang. You can't use your Misty corners. I could use it at the bottom to get it off the bottom to give me something to push it up against if I wanted it in the middle, because you tend to get a better image in the middle than right on the very edges, even in a stamp platform. But what I tend to do is grab myself some washi tape, pick a line, because I will forget otherwise what I'm lining it up to. So when I come to do these, I'll pop my tag in. I will put a magnet on it. I'll probably lose a couple of these tags because I'll probably do a stamp and make sure it's lined up, because it depends how well the rubber's cut, you know, whether it will look right the first time you stamp. And I think I'm going to do it that way. And like anything with batching, do all of the same tasks all at the same time, and that tends to be quicker. I can still leave this clear stamp up here and still use the rest of my platform with it on the rubber side. So if you've got one that has a flip lid like this, you can do that as well. This is the Ickle Christmas Tree Dinky from Indigo Blue, this one. And I've got some really nice green tinsel embossing powder, but because it's not really accurate side to side, I can pop that one on there. And if I wanted to, I could build this up and make it a sort of thicker, but you'd be surprised how well it catches even just on the washi tape. And again, I probably would use the magnet for this. I've got all my platforms set up, so I'm going to do a few test stamps and make sure feel like I've got everything in the right place. And then it's just a case of stamping. And I've got Snowflake Tinsel. That's one of my favourite tags to do the white on craft. So if you're batch making, get yourself set up. So that's what I've done with all my stamping platforms. And then give yourself some space. What I've just done is I've got my stamping press ready to go. I've got my Versamark ink is just sitting above my stamp platform so I can grab it. I've got a box full. I've got my tags stacked ready waiting in. so they're easy to pull out. I've got my embossing powder and my coffee filter paper sitting ready to go. My heat gun's already plugged in, ready to go. And just over here, I've actually got a big empty space, so I can do these in batches of probably 5, so that I can stamp 5 and then I can heat emboss 5. Because I'm heat embossing, I can line them up on this, so I can lift them back up onto this and, you know, leave them to cool on this, because I am working directly on my desk. Versamark ink will stay wet long enough to allow you to do sets. Now I could, now these have all got the embossing powder on, leave these for a few minutes and go and do a second batch, because once the embossing powder's on there, it takes an age to dry. One set of 5 tags. I put my tags in bags of 5. That's one set, ready to go. So that's me. I've got 5 packs of 5, so I've done 25 tags. Didn't take me that long. Oh, I did stand up to stamp those because it's quite a big stamp, and it just means I can get enough pressure on it to make sure that I only actually needed to do it once. So I didn't re-ink, I just did it once, stood up from above. So I'm going to move on to my next set of stamping, but I am actually going to leave it set up again because I've got another craft fair after the one I'm doing this weekend. I've only got one more. So if I sell out of these, I'll make some more, and I won't put it away until I've done my craft fair on Saturday. So I'm just going to go through and do the same thing with green tinsel. So this is another really old heated up embossing powder in green tinsel, which I'm going to do on this tree. So swap my box craft colour for my white ones, and off we go again. That's another batch of 5, lots of 5. I did a mixture of the more contemporary Christmas tree and different colours on this batch. So that's all my large ones that I'm going to heat emboss done. So I'm actually going to do a big clear up, get rid of all this glitter and make sure all my embossing powder's put away, just so that I know that I'm not going to contaminate everything else with glitter and things like that. And a little tip, if you are cleaning up glitter, embossing powder, anything like that, I buy the great big Swiffer cloths. So these are actually the ones that are designed to clean dust off like laminate floors and things. And I cut them up into pieces about this size. So from one sheet I get probably a dozen more, because they're big ones intended to go on mop heads. I cut them up into pieces about this size, and they do a brilliant job of getting all the little loose bits. I will show you this one. You probably can't see it on that camera, but I can see all the glitter twinkling away on my desk. Hopefully you can see all that on there glittering away. So yeah, then I can fold it up, do a bit more, make sure I've got rid of it all. And then each time I'm only throwing away this teeny little piece, not a whole sheet. That's another set. 5 lots of 5 done. It took me, I did time it, it took me about 1 minute and 20 seconds to stamp just one set of the really basic ones. So it only takes a few minutes to stamp 5 tags. And there's the ones that I've done with silver pigment, I'm just going to leave those to dry on my board, because the silver pigment does take a little bit of time to dry. And I'm actually now onto my last set. So I'm going to do some of the season's greetings onto these round ones. The white craft tags that came with red and white twine, but I've got green and white, so I can put red or green and still, you know, I've actually even got black and white. And if you're interested, I think these big rolls of twine, these came from Flying Tiger in the UK. So they are snore string from Tiger. So I decided that for some of these, I think I've just got 5 left. I thought that it might be fun to do some in gold embossing because I've not done any gold this year. So I thought I've got some string that's got some gold in it. So I'm going to do some gold embossing on these ones. And I will just say with the circles, if you're not going to make yourself a little pattern, pick yourself a greeting. So when I chose which greeting to put on this, I know I can shove this into the bottom corner, but it could rotate slightly. So when I chose which stamp was going to go onto these, I made sure that it was one that it wouldn't matter if it was twisted slightly, so it wouldn't look wrong if it was twisted one way or the other slightly. And I also made sure I picked inks that I'm reasonably confident will stamp on the first go, because that's going to happen because it's not magneted down. I could use tape and tape it down, but the whole point of batch making is to try and make it quicker. So I didn't particularly want to do that. Now, because it's been so successful, let's use gold tinsel today. So I have a little sample on the lids of all my pots, and the ones that look different on different colours. So this is holographic embossing powder. So on the lid of this, I have a little white circle and 2 different black ones. And the reason you've got 2 different black ones is a lot of the holographic ones and ones that do look different on black, it depends how much you heat them. So I think this one's heated not too much, and then this one's heated quite, you know, keep going and heat it some more. So it goes through phases, and they look so different on the black that when there's a reason to, I put different samples on the top. I saved all my old placemats, so when they got all a bit tatty, I saved them so that I can use them for things like this. And the other reason this is perfect for heat embossing on is because you can, I've got it cork side up, so the other side is the decorative side, but if with all the other ones I've been just holding the strings because they were pre-strung tags, but with these might try to go for a wander round, so I can just, because it's cork, I can just bung my pokey tool in the hole and hold on to it on the cork. See, like that one's just flown. Managed to stick my thumb in this one as I was picking it up. So instead of heat embossing it, where's my little brush gone? I'm gonna tap off anything that's got smudged. Get my embossing powder back and see if we can re-get that little bit where the apostrophe and the S were. And you'd be surprised, even though I've given it a little brush and messed with it, that I've still managed to catch it again. So that's another 4 sets of 5 all done. I've got to go back and string all these ones. And I always save myself 1 piece of twine that's the length that I want it to be. And I know I need 5. So when we're batch making, do everything at the same time. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get scissors that actually cut. So that's for those. And what I'll do is keep those all together, take them in, sit in front of the TV and string them all while I'm in the evening when I'm tucked up under a blanket watching a film or something. So next up for the tag making, I thought I'd show you how I've made die cut tags before. So quite often when I'm die cutting, I will fill my plate. So if I'm specifically want to die cut one thing, I'll actually fill my plate with other dies, just with card from my scraps box. So I've already had a route through here. So something I've done in the past is all my white scraps. I've cut this one out. I think this is a first edition one, so that's DRK Crafts these days it's called. So I decided, well, they're going to fit on that tag, which is just one of my big ones, cut down to 3.5 inches tall. So I've already got all these bits cut out. So again, I can cut my tags down to 3.5 inches, put these in bundles of 5, take my glue inside where it's warm, and go and stick these down. I think it's from the same set. I've got this little Let It Snow, and I've done that in blue. So I think I've got at least 5 of those in blue. So that, I've not punched one out of white yet, but I punched one out of black to check the size because I had a black scrap sat next to me. And that fits perfectly on the tag that this great big punches out. Mine is for a woodwear one, and I've had this for years and years and years and years, and I've used it and used it and used it. But I think this same punch, I have a feeling that Hobbycraft do it, and I have a feeling that Craftelia do it. I have a feeling it's one of those punches that has been sold as a design and branded under loads of different things, but mine is a woodwear one. So I'm going to punch out a load of white tags to put these little blue Let It Snows on. This is another thing I do. If I've got like scraps of glitter paper that's not big enough to do much else with, I'll cut loads of snowflakes out of it. So I've got a little box. I think this is the box that the Altenew acrylic blocks come in. So I repurpose everything. So yeah, if I've got little scraps of white, especially specialty stuff, I've got little tiny snowflake punches, and I'll punch loads of snowflakes out so that I've got loads of little tiny glittery snowflakes ready to go. Same goes for things like bows. I've got some poinsettias. I've got some bits that I think these little pieces, yeah, up here. I've got things I could put in shaker cards. There are some other bits in there. And I've got loads of layers that I was going to sit and glue together at some point of words. So I've got a bit tangled, never got round to it, but I've got words cut out. Again, it was just things that I filled my plates with so that I could do shadows. I might one day sit and stick all these together. So it's, oh, and I've got loads of tiny reindeer, and that's because they were a cutout of like a 2-layer tag, and there's some other bits in, but you get the idea that, you know, whenever I'm doing a load of die cutting, I'll fill my plate, certainly with Christmas things, because I know they'll get used eventually. And what I actually pulled it out for was to check if I had any of these ones. This is one of my all-time favourites, and these are going to go, they look really good on the white tag because it's already got the craft circle on it, and I put a little red gem on the end so that they're little Rudolphs. I only had 2 left in my bits box, so I'm going to have to take, I'll take my little baby tiny Spellbinders die cutting machine in, and again I'm going to cut a load of those out, take my blank tags in, and sit and glue inside in the warm because my office is freezing. So yeah, I'll come back and show you when I've done all my die cut ones. So I hope you enjoyed that little insight into how I prepare things for craft fairs. Of course, you could use all these tips and tricks if you were just making, you know, tags for yourself or really quick Christmas cards. You could, you know, transfer this onto a Christmas card and you've got a Christmas card. So just thought it might be interesting for some of you to see how I set things up. Now I've got to go and put all these in bags ready for Saturday. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.